What's up, guys? This is Will Schustrick, three-time United States disc golf champion. We're in Woodstock, Georgia, home of Prodigy Disc, testing out the new H1 V2. I'm out here with team member Dylan Holt. We're testing out the original H1 in comparison to the H1 V2. We decided to make a new version of the H1 after we got feedback from the fans and players that the H1 was a little too overstable. They wanted something with a little bit more glide and a little bit more speed, and that's exactly what we created. The H1 V2 is much easier to throw for those players that don't have a lot of power behind their throw. And those players who still love the original H1, the H1 V2 still has the consistent fade, just with a little bit more glide and a little bit more usability across the entire course. The H1 V2 and the original H1 have the same exact rim width. The difference between the two is the original H1 has a fairly blunt edge right here in comparison to a sharper edge on the H1 V2, which makes the H1 V2 much faster out of the hand. It also has a little bit more glide than the original H1, making it go further, and also makes it to where it holds a little bit of a line out of your hand a lot longer. The H1 V2 with the slight hyzer out of your hand will stay on that line and consistently have a slow fade back to the left. As you can see, the H1 V2 is still overstable, but not quite as much as the original H1. You can get a lot more distance and glide out of the H1 V2 in comparison to the original H1. The H1 V2 released flat, holds the line for just a few seconds, but then consistently fades and comes back to the left. With the H1 V2, with the slight anhyzer release out of your hand, it holds just slightly, so it'll come back with a consistent fade. With all these three angles of releases, the consistency is that it's always coming back to the left. You can put a little bit of a move on the H1 V2 and expect it to hold, and then a little bit of glide, but always with that consistent fade. And that's the reason why the H1 V2 is in my bag. The H1 V2 is also great for sidearms. Whether you have a lot of power behind your sidearm or you're looking for something that is nice and consistent, nice and smooth, the H1 V2 has that consistent fade, so you can start out with a slight turn out of your hand, or you can start out with a slight hyzer on your sidearm, and it's still going to have that consistent fade from left to right on your sidearm. Whether you throw sidearm or whether you throw backhand, the H1 V2 is a great, consistent, overstable flyer for your bag.
So I use the original H1 for super overstable headwind shots. That disc would get out roughly about 250, 275. For me, the new H1 is so much more versatile. I can use this disc for any shot, 325, 350 plus, hyzer, flat releases. You can really do a lot with this disc.
Thanks for watching our H1 V2 review video. I'm Will Schustrick with Dylan Holt out at Dupree Park. Make sure to pick up an H1 V2 at your favorite Prodigy retailer.